Yes, indeed. It's a key problem that many broadcasters like the SABC around the world are facing. The biggest one in Africa. Indeed, the SABC finds itself in that exact situation. There have been concerns that the election coverage for next year may be a tall order if a solution isn't found. Media analysts are puzzled that while the SABC needs a guarantee and not a bailout like other SOEs, there's not been much of a word on it.
The biggest public broadcaster in Africa, reaching millions through its platforms, radio is leading the pack, followed by TV stations. The digital platform is also doing well, with the SABC YouTube channel getting between 6 and 8 million views per month.
A lot of the issues we faced as the SABC has to do with the regulatory framework and policy issues.
But there are still challenges.
We have developed a strategic roadmap that looks at the strategy, it looks at the plans, but most importantly, it gets into different divisions like radio, how we're going to turn it around, TV, and so forth.
We are required to cover a number of mandated issues without regard to where the funding of these mandated issues are.
For ordinary South Africans, the SABC is a source of both essential information and entertainment, yet many are unaware of the impact the financial woes of the public broadcaster may have on them.
SABC, for now, I think is the best thing because many people are not that stable enough to money, like for instance. So they can't manage to buy this TV on this thing. So those programs, they manage them just for mahala.
I live in Alexander, but I'm from Mpumalanga. I need to see what's happening there.
These are the views of ordinary South Africans, young and old, except Parliament has been quiet since the SABC went there to seek intervention. But what are the views of political parties regarding the financial woes of the public broadcaster?
I do not want us to be drawn into a specific institution called the SABC. I want us to understand a principle. What is the principle is that SOEs need to be assisted to a point where they could be able to self-sustain.
Just because SAA receives the bailout does not mean that the SABC must receive a bailout. We were very much against the 11 billion bailout that the SAA got. So we do not believe in bailouts. We believe in sound financial decision making, and we believe in solutions finding. If you ask the ordinary South African if money should be used to consistently bail out state-owned entities, the answer will be no.
It's very difficult to say that you cannot throw a lifeline to people that you've just assigned a task to, because it means you'd be setting them up to fail. So in essence, it means, as the UDM, we do indeed support it, grudgingly though. We do support a bailout, but it must be accompanied by a very clear turnaround strategy.
Media experts have warned that an ailing public broadcaster could fail in its mandate.
We've seen countless state-owned enterprises being literally bailed out, where they give them money and they still mismanage it. With the SABC, we're seeing an entity that's saying, we don't want a bailout, what we want is a guarantee. We're convinced that with the right sort of things, we can make this a financially sustainable entity, and there's no reason for them not to be. And yet they're not getting it. So the real question we have to be asking is why is government not giving the public broadcaster that guarantee? Whose interests are served for the SABC to be lurching and hovering on a crisis, bearing in mind we're approaching elections again next year? And it's, you know, we're trying to rebuild the SABC now. We're at a critical juncture where it can fly or it can fall, and if it falls in approaching an election year, it'll be devastating for our country.
Media Monitoring Africa says for best practice, South Africa can look at the UK, where raising funds through licenses has kept the BBC independent, but high levels of compliance are required. The Scandinavian countries thrive because there is equality, but in South Africa, inequality is rife and again could lead to incompliance. And a warning to tread carefully with the New Zealand approach, where that country privatized its public broadcaster and lost it, and it is now attempting to get it back. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Johannesburg.